All right, without further ado, I'll get into it. Our very first game on Saturday was the Buffalo Bills and the Indianapolis Colts. This was probably the best football game of the weekend. Came down to the wire. Great offensive, defensive plays on both sides. The first half went exactly as the Colts wanted it to. They dominated time of possession and field position, but the Bills took the lead at the very end of the first half, despite the great half by the Colts, and you could just kind of feel the momentum shifting. Josh Allen was elite, and people were wondering, I mentioned it in my preview, that he had struggled against the Texans last year in their playoff game, and he came out this time. He shut all the haters up. He played really, really well up until very late in the game when he took 20-yard sack, and there was 3 minutes left, and they had to punt, and the Colts came all the way down the field, and there was a play on fourth down where the ball went out to Zach Pascal. He got the first down, and then he got hit, and a player ripped the ball out for a fumble on the Bills, and they recovered it, and they're all celebrating. And upon further review, they called him down when you could obviously see on the replay that he wasn't down. So there was some controversy freaking out on the internet because of this play call, because the game should have been over at that point. But the Colts move on 3 plays later, 4 seconds left. The Hail Mary goes up. The Bills bat the ball down. It doesn't come back to bite them in the butt, and they get their first playoff win in what feels like forever, 25 years. And very big congratulations to the Buffalo Bills. They'll be hosting another playoff game next week and allowing the Bills Mafia in, and they keep rolling, doing what they did.
So you didn't like that call?
No, I was not. I thought it was a fumble, and I was very surprised that they called it down by contact, but it's not too much of a deal now that the Bills ended up winning anyways, so you just move on, right?
I watched the fourth quarter.
Okay.
And I thought it was so close, like it was just within a microsecond that giving the call to Buffalo ended the game, whereas giving the call to the Indianapolis Colts put the destiny in like both teams' hands. And like on a play that was such a microsecond away, I, as like someone with no stakes in either team, kind of enjoyed that they on like a knife's edge call made the decision that let the game keep going. But that's not a very legal or technical argument.
Yeah, it's true. Lots of betting implications for that as well. Mm-hmm. If the Colts had gotten a field goal, sent it to overtime. But the Bills, I've mentioned it many times, they actually had some experience with some last-second Hail Marys, and so they knew what to do this time, knocked the ball down, no chance of Hopkins making a Herculean effort, or whoever would have been on the Colts. And Phillip Rivers didn't have the arm strength to even throw it to the end zone. He may be done. We'll track his offseason and see what he decides to do, if he's going to retire or play another season in Indianapolis. Next game, Seattle Seahawks and Los Angeles Rams. Wolford was the starter, so everyone was we figured out I guess they trusted him enough in a big playoff game, and he looked decent on the first drive. They didn't score, and then the second drive, he takes a hit falling to the ground from Jamal Adams and had to get taken out in concussion protocol. He actually went in an ambulance to the hospital, and so he was removed for the rest of the game. And Jared Goff came in with a thumb that just had surgery done on it a week ago, and he had a tough, gutty performance. He didn't throw a pick. He wasn't perfect, but he hung in there and made the plays that needed to be played and managed the offense for the Rams, and they ran the ball well with Cam Akers. A couple big pass plays, but not a consistent passing game, but they did enough, and their defense was absolutely incredible. Jalen Ramsey was a blanket on DK Metcalf, and Russ tried to force him the ball. They drew up a wide receiver screen, and Darius Williams read it perfectly, had the first interception on a wide receiver screen all season in the NFL, and he took it to the house for 6. And that was the big play in this game that really gave the Rams what felt like a backbreaking lead. And they ended up taking this one on the road 30-20. You wonder what the 12s would have had to say, would have given Seattle a greater home field advantage. But in this situation, defense prevailed, and it's another tough playoff loss for the Seahawks, and they've had a couple in these last few years, and they really have to figure out what their identity is moving forward, is because their defense was really, really soft, and Russell Wilson, I think, still needs some help on that offensive line if he wants to truly, truly be special and up with the likes of Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. We go to the night game. The Washington football team, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Alex Smith was out for this game, so the football team went to 4th-string quarterback Taylor Heineke, who played his absolute heart out. He gave it all for this team. No expectations from him. He was a 4-year player at Old Dominion, which I don't even know where that is in the States. And he had a couple of incredible plays for someone who had no expectations. He scrambled out of the pocket, dove for the pylon, had a huge touchdown when the football team was down 18-10, brought them within 2. And then in the end, just the Bucs' overall talent was too much for this football team. The Washington couldn't generate any defensive pass rush on Brady. The offensive line was great for Tampa Bay, and they came up with enough big plays. Antonio Brown had a touchdown. Godwin had a touchdown. And the Bucs get the win that they need. They now head to New Orleans for their next showdown, which will be the marquee matchup for next weekend. And I'm really excited to see Brady Breeze going at it. We move on to Sunday. Tennessee Titans, Baltimore Ravens. This was probably the most hyped up game because of the fact that these teams do not like each other. Earlier in the season, the Titans had a team meeting on the Ravens logo before the game, which is don't breach the sanctity of the logo, blah, blah, blah. And the Titans got out to another early lead, and the Ravens were in trouble. They had not won down 10 points in the Lamar Jackson era, but Lamar was determined to break that narrative. He had an absolutely phenomenal 48-yard touchdown run, just exploded for one of those signature Lamar MVP plays, and it was marvelous to watch. The Ravens won on the defensive side of the ball. Matt Judon, Darnell McPhee, Calais Campbell, Brandon Williams, all were phenomenal all game, beating the Titans O-line at the point of attack and getting to Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry had his worst game of the season, and that was truly due to the Ravens defensive line playing out of their minds. And that's all it took was once the Ravens grabbed hold of the lead, they're a team that's designed to run the football and keep the lead. And there was nothing the Titans could do. A late interception by Marcus Peters when the receiver fell down on his route. The Ravens start dancing on the Titans logo in celebration, and a lot of people didn't like that. But hey, again, it's kind of like what I said about the USA barrel incident. You won. You have the right to do whatever you want, and it's a little bit of revenge for what the Titans did earlier in the season. So there's not much you can say about that. And it's a good win for the Ravens. I wouldn't say it was perfect, but they'll now be heading to Buffalo for an excellent game between two really solid teams. So it should be a good one. New Orleans versus Chicago. The biggest story in this game was not even the game itself. It was the Nickelodeon broadcast with the slime zone touchdowns, the googly eye graphics, young Sheldon explaining what a false start is, SpongeBob sitting in between the uprights on the field goal. It was, I don't know, I loved it. And I'm a bit childish, but I think it was cool to bring those elements into football and teach the kids in a much more entertaining way. Love the slime zone, and the announcers were very kid friendly and really, really excited and matched the energy of the broadcast. And if you didn't want to watch that, you could always go over to the other CBS channel with Nance and Romo because they're two great announcers as well. And I think the NFL should look into doing more of this. And I don't know what other channels you could really do. We saw the meme that Tom Brady posted yesterday night of him and Drew Brees aged like 20 years ahead, and the History Channel logo in the background. But they could consider putting on other broadcasts because they'll make money off of that, and it may engage more fans to tune in if it's kind of tailored towards their interests. And yeah, it was fun. The Bears offense almost ruined this game because they were just so bad. They had 3 points until the very end of the fourth quarter. Saints defense really made its statement, although it's not much saying against this terrible Bears offense. The Saints actually looked pretty mediocre for the first half and then turned things on later. And yeah, what stood out to me was there was a play where Trubisky went through his reads on the left side of the field and then had a receiver wide open on the right, but didn't make it to that read in time and scrambled and threw the ball away. And then on the other side, Drew Brees made his reads on the right side of the field and then came back and threw it basically even without checking because he knew that route would be there on the left side for a first down. And so it was just kind of that experience mismatch between the two quarterbacks that was kind of the biggest difference in this game, because both had some weaker plays and there were turnovers on both sides. So yeah, it not the most impressive win for the Saints, but they move on and they get to host the Buccaneers next weekend, which will be an awesome game. Finally, the Sunday night game, Pittsburgh versus Cleveland. Before the game, Juju Smith-Schuster said the Browns is the Browns. They might have a couple good players, but it's still the team that we know how to beat. The Steelers rested all their starters last week when they had the opportunity to knock the Browns out of the playoff hunt, and they were very confident. And the first snap of the game sails over Ben Roethlisberger's head, rolls down to like the 1 yard line. Him and James Conner kind of look at each other. I don't want to jump on it. Do you? They miss it. The Browns defense jumps on it for a touchdown, recover it. Just like that first play of the game, you're down 7. Next drive, Ben's pass gets tipped, intercepted, return for a couple of yards, and then the Browns are able to punch it in for a touchdown on offense, 14-0. Steelers punt, Browns touchdown, and then Ben throws another interception on another drive that gets tipped at the line of scrimmage and caught by an O lineman. Great athletic play, or D lineman, pardon me. Great athletic play. Browns get another touchdown, and they ran all over them in the first half, 28-0 to start. And what is happening was trending on Twitter, right? Like, what was going on? No one was expecting that to happen. The Steelers, you knew they were going to make some sort of push in the second half. They actually brought it within 6, I believe, and had momentum. It was 4th and 1. They let the clock run out on the third quarter. So, of course, plenty of time to think about it for the fourth quarter. They take a delay of game trying to draw them offside, and then they punt. And there goes all your momentum. The Browns score again, and that's as close as the Steelers got. Really disappointing loss for them. And Big Ben could be retiring after this. We had some pretty sad shots of him on the sideline, but big congrats to the Browns. They heard all that talk, all the bulletin board material from the Steelers, and they were the nobody believes in us team, no head coach, and they put out an incredible effort, and they're moving on to face Kansas City, which is not the best prize to win, but hey, they're still in it, right? The Chase Claypool yesterday, not a good look for our Canadian friend on his Twitch stream, said tough loss yesterday, but the Browns are going to get a clap next week. And I mean, you're not even in the playoffs, bud, so you can't be throwing those chirps. Yeah. So tough look for him, but big ups to the Browns. We got Kansas City, Cleveland, Baltimore, Buffalo, New Orleans, Tampa Bay, and Green Bay, Los Angeles Rams next weekend. So should be good. And I look forward to breaking that down. The last game that I want to talk about in the football world is the National College Championship between Alabama Crimson Tide and the Ohio State University Buckeyes. And this game kind of matched up with everyone what they thought it was. Alabama offense is unstoppable. The Ohio State offense is really good, but just couldn't keep up. This I believe the final score hit like a total of 76 points, and the over was 75. So it was a really good line set by the line makers, and it was an offensive explosion. Devontae Smith had over 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. The Heisman winner just went off again, and they found great, like a number of different ways to get him the ball in space, and he's fantastic. And Mac Jones played really, really well. And yeah, that all Alabama's defense had to do was get like, I don't even know if they got a turnover, but they really just had to get them to punt once and the game's over because they were going to score almost every time they came down the field. And yeah, really exciting, fun game. And we look at the scenes of Tuscaloosa, people celebrating without all the masks on in the streets, and the thousands of kids who are going to be in the hospital probably 14 days from now getting their tests. But yeah, congratulations, Alabama, 7th title in 14 years. So they dominate college football, and I guess the fan base deserves to celebrate. I just wish it could have been at home.